So let's continue our series about the Games Workshop paints and their different ranges. And today we're going to talk about the shades, or the shade section, which is actually the washes. And Games Workshop has this tendency, we've talked about this a little bit, where they want to, use the base paint to do base coats. And so shading is an integral part of miniature painting. And then Games Workshop decided that they're going to call their washes shade. And this is very confusing. So whenever you hear the term a wash is applying, thin down paint or thin down ink, to shade a miniature. So these are what's called washes, because that's the technique that's used to apply them, and the effect that washes create is called shading. So that's like a mouthful. This makes it unnecessarily complex for beginners to try to wrap their head around, just because of that name that they use, that then becomes really synonymous, where you say, oh, you shade this with something, and then they go, how do I do this with the shade? Because the shade is non-existent. Well, this is a wash, okay? And there's a bunch of product like this, but none are really exactly like that. That's one of the shades from Games Workshop. It is a really prime product. That's probably their best range, maybe, with the contrast. In my opinion, their most like proprietary thing, the thing that makes them kind of unique. Their shades are pretty amazing, to be honest. Shading is basically their wash range, and then that's, if you hear like these old terms, sometimes like older people, they use the term of wash. That's what they mean here. And then every line has like some sort of like equivalent, like this, which is like, Army Painter has like tones. Some of them have inks as well. Inks is another one of those. Sometimes it's a wash, sometimes it's actually really ink. But the Games Workshop one, they behave in their own little way, which is a great way, to be honest. So they're really not that interchangeable. Whereas the layer paints, for example, that we covered in the other video, layer paints is just paint, right? You get the cool color from Games Workshop, which has the name, but besides that, it's paint. That's paint. That's paint, right? Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Shades, more unique in that this product, what it does essentially is you slap it on a mini. And then you can go like pretty thick. You can lather it on there like an animal, with a big brush, and you don't care. And it's gonna, as it dries, it's gonna go into the recesses, and it's gonna create a shading effect, right? That's why they call them shades. And that's essentially what all washes do. But the Games Workshop one are really good at doing that, which is they go into the recesses and kind of leave the not recesses mostly alone. And that's where they're not all of these products are created equal. Where, for example, the tones from Army Painter are much more uniform, so they will do a little bit of that shading thing, but they will also tint the entire surface with the color that they are. And then the cool thing is that the more and more with the shades and the contrast, you can kind of get a little bit in between, where you can use some shades as like a substitute for a very light contrast, and you can use the contrast very thin down as a darker shade, if you will, or a more potent shade. So that's a really interesting part, but that does require some mixing and matching. And as we discussed, like Games Workshop, they don't really want you to have to fidget. Like they're not interested in the you being your little Walter White and your underoos and mixing paint and being all chemisty and stuff. They want you to use this stuff right out of the pot and for it to work. Null oil is one of the ones that we'll cover later. So if you need to get 3 of these, and then 3 is the right number, is these 3 here. You can see I even use them on my little stand thingy because they're always the same 3. This set of 3 will get you anywhere. This is the liquid talent situation, as I call it. A lot of people, they when they talk about liquid talent, they mean agraxar shade. Some people like null oil, but I think all 3 of them, this is the combo pack, right? The deal. So agraxar shade is brown. Seraphim sepia is sepia, which is yellowish. I call it the Mexico tint because whenever you watch TV or movies and they talk about Mexico, the screen has like this yellow hue to it. That's the one. And then null oil is the third one, which is black. Now, this set of 3 is amazing because you can do everything. This shades every single color known to man. Is it a really dark color? Cool, take black. Is it a super light color? Cool, take Seraphim Sepia. Is it any other color? A Groxard shade. And this will work every time. So that's why those are my 3 favorite. And this is kind of also what you get from all the other ranges. Like for example, the Army Painter, they have the same set. They call them, I think it's like dark, strong, and light or something like that. Exactly the same thing. Again, their product are a little bit different in the way that they apply, but the idea is the same. These 3, everything. The drawback of only having these 3 is that they produce a little bit more drab miniature, because if you have like a bright red and you put like brown on it, it's going to tone down the brightness of it. Same thing for the black and the yellow, unless you're doing sepia on the yellow. And that's where you can come in with the actual colors of shade. This one is Druchki Violet, whatever. It's purple. And then this one here is Drakenhof Nightshade, is the blue one. And so now if you want to do blue, but you want to keep it vibrant and everything, just use Drakenhof Nightshade. And doing purple or doing pink, well, you can go with your boy Druchki Violet. So you can use these, and then these would be kind of, maybe not this one, but this one would probably be my next favorite. Druchki Violet is just great for gold for some reason. Just if you have gold, you want to shade it, Druchki Violet just works. So it's probably my 4th favorite. These are the 3 that I use a lot. The 4 I use a lot. And then I used to be a very big fan of Reikland Flesh Shade for everything gold, but I've since moved on to a contrast paint that I think does a better job. But Reikland Flesh Shade I think is great, except when you're doing skin, which is kind of weird because that's what it's supposed to be. But it's very, like if you're an OG, or if you painted in your younger days, it used to be called chestnut ink. This is the closest equivalent to the chestnut ink from way before. And I think it's too orangey for flesh, which it gives you that Jersey Shore look, which I don't know if that's what you want. But so I don't like it for flesh, but I like it for a lot of other things, and gold being one of those things. But we're going to talk about it in the contrast video a lot more. There's a lot of like cool things that you can do with contrast that's not really contrast. But if you're looking for a simple solution, Reikland is a really good one. There's a bunch of other colors. I think the yellow is probably the weakest one, just because the contrast paint is so much better. And then let's address this thing. This is important. You're gonna run into this, especially if you have older pots. So non-oil has changed significantly in the last, I don't know, year and a half. I'll say at some point in like 2023. I'll say I think maybe early 2023, maybe late 2022. Non-oil has changed. They changed the content of it, and it's not as strong as it used to be. So it used to be, again, this great product. Everybody loved it, liquid talent, and then they changed it a little bit. So now it's weaker, meaning it's not as potent. So if you use it on like almost black and stuff, it has very little effect. If you use it on silver, it's less potent. So this is an important change, because a lot of like recipes, if you look at like old tutorials, they're going to talk about this, and the result that they are getting and that you are getting is going to be different. So it's slightly important to know. I prefer the new one simply because now you get to use it on stuff that's much lighter than before. Before it was like way too potent, and if you use it on like some light gray, it's going to stain and be weird. Now it works. But that's also because I've been using the black Templar contrast paint, and I thinned this one down to get something that's more akin to the old non-oil, or even more potent, because sometimes I like darker even. So I as with everybody, I mourn the old non-oil, which was really a perfect product, and I don't really get why they decided they changed it and they didn't tell anyone, but they did. But I like this a lot, but you have to understand that it is lighter than it used to be, or that maybe you want it to be. And if that's the case, you get yourself contrast Black Templar and a ton of medium, and then you mix it until you get the consistency that you like. And I'm still new with this Black Templar as a shade situation, but what I'll probably do is, once my pot reaches about here, I'll start to fill it with medium straight in the pot, just to get the same mix all the time. That's probably the next like step that I want to take it in because I use it so much. So this kind of covers the shade. So again, there's not a lot of equivalents for this, whereas every range has some sort of like wash situation, but the Games Workshop one are very, very unique in the way that they're applied. And so it's not, if you go with the super cool trio of paints here, buying these same like colors, I guess, in the Army Painter range and applying them on the Mini is not going to give you the exact same thing. So that's one thing to look out for. If you like these little videos, instructionals, and you want more, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and more coming your way.